Hey guys, it's Christian here back again from CNH Small Engine for another informative service and review video. This one deals with an actual Weed Eater 1 riding lawnmower here specifically. We had a customer here, he dropped this specific machine off here early this week right here because apparently the machine was sitting out in a field under a tree for about a year and a half time, and even though it was partially covered up, he did get a lot of we're gonna call rust and corrosion and stuff like that on a lot of the actual terminals and stuff like that underneath the machine's electrical system right here for that. And I just want to make a quick video because these machines, unfortunately, I don't like telling people this to their face because these machines are absolute garbage. I don't want to tell you that, but that's what they are. These things are absolute garbage in my personal opinion because of the overall quality of the machine in general. This machine was bought by the gentleman I think about 5 or 6 years ago. It says on the front on here it was $6.99 and it was down to $4.90. Well, the person bought it originally as a closeout for what he claimed was $2.99, and because of that, these machines are not built to any kind of a quality standard right there. Personally, this is the what's that here, Weed Eater 1 261 single blade, as it has on the left hand side right down there. 261 single blade. So this is basically a bubble ride on machine, as they call it right there for that. And this one also has a 7 horsepower overhead valve engine on here as well too. And I'll give you a better shot of the actual engine model number as well too for you guys right there. You zoom in on here, build date 0110 right there for that. So it's a 2010 engine, and as I said before, this thing was sitting in a supposedly a field underneath a tree. I cannot verify that claim, but that's what I was told by the gentleman who originally brought over here. Let me see, I can give you a better picture underneath than the seat right here as well too. Here we go. Here's the Weed Eater specific model number tag right here for that. And get a better zoom in here. Sorry about that. I need this thing wiped off. It's a Weed Eater model number WE261 with a product and maintenance level model number of 960220009. The big gap, and there's a number, a couple of zeros right there as well too. And here's the engine on here as well too. There's the front end. It's the overhead valve clearly marked right there, and it has an 8.75 horsepower gross foot torque rating on it specifically. The customer brought it over to us originally because they were telling me it would not start, and that was the primary reason he brought it over here. And the other secondary reason was the actual braking mechanism was locked underneath the machine as well too. Unfortunately, this machine is going to cost way too much to repair, primarily because of the issues that we found over here over the course of about 3 or 4 days this past week. The primary thing that basically would not allow us to do the job, the actual proper repair, was a safety issue right here for that. I'll show you this specifically. It actually deals with the actual structural integrity of the whole machine. You have this frame unit underneath here that goes underneath the front of your housing, the steering column housing right here. Well, this assembly goes all the way back behind here underneath your seat mechanism. Your seat mechanism has a battery up underneath your seat right here as well too. That's where your battery compartment is. You have a small miniature 12-volt battery directly underneath where my finger's at right here, guys. And this battery on his machine is completely shot, and those batteries are not cheap whatsoever. They're a specialty battery. The last time I looked them up here this past week, they were about $80 directly from the manufacturer, so they are not a cheap battery whatsoever. And the other problem we found on here was the main structural problem here. Right here in the back, as I said before about the tubing issue, you have this tubing, structural tubing here that holds the whole machine together right here. It starts back here, goes underneath the frame right here, this whole frame assembly right here, then goes up here, then goes underneath the seat, then it comes back down here, and that's the whole thing that keeps the whole machine structurally sound. Well, in the back here, right back here, you probably can't see it, but it is definitely there, guys. They have a weld all along this back portion where the tubing mates all along here. You have what we call an angled plate right here that's welded along here, and it goes underneath here 1, 2, and 3. You have 3 bolts holding the actual plate up underneath here with the actual tubing mated against it via spot welds all along here. Well, unfortunately, these spot welds, they have 1, 2, and they have a 3rd spot weld back here. The 2 of the spot welds are completely disintegrated on here, and this thing actually flexes whenever you push down on the actual brake on the front here. I'll demonstrate that right now if I can here. It might not be too good doing that, but it will definitely flex. So let me hold this camera in my one hand so let me verify this right now for you guys. So whenever you push down on the pedal here, this whole thing moves up and down. You can see this thing flexing right here. You can probably see it back. You can see the actual height adjustment and the engagement things moving back there. Well, that's what's going on is those tubes that run down as a structural frame unit, they're basically flexing against your frame right back here as well too, and because of that it makes it structurally unsound in order to do the job properly. And in order to do the job completely, you would have to dismantle this rear unit back here. You need to take the engine off the machine, you need to take this plate bracket out of here, and you have to completely strip down the machine right here. You have to take the actual deck off on here. This whole thing would have to be dismantled, the whole back unit right here, and this thing would have to be completely re-welded back on here again. So it would have to be welded from the top down as it is from the factory because of these welds being broken all along down. Like I said before, there's 1, 2, and there's 3 spot welds that run along here, and it's, in my personal opinion, it's a real piss-ass slipshod way of actually mounting the actual frame sub-assembly to the rest of the machine to keep it all in one specific piece. And because of that, this machine is not going to be worth repairing because of that one aspect. Plus, the machine will not start as well too, because he has old gas in the carburetor. It's completely varnished up inside here as well too, because it was, like I said, it was sitting for a few years. That needs to be done on there. It needs to be tuned up. And he also had other problems as well too on this machine as well. The other problem was you have your switch down here. This one switch right here, you have this little gray switch right down here, guys. Well, this switch is activated via this little cable right here, and that cable goes up to your front brake pedal right here. You see it moving a little bit right there. Well, that thing is not working properly because you have this secondary little piece of spring steel plate down here as well too. And what we found over here was this: since the whole frame is flexing back and forth, it is not applying proper pressure to your actual safety switch right here in order for it to function as well too. And that was throwing us for another loop because we were going through the whole electrical system here trying to figure out what needs to be done to this machine. And because we were checking all the wires because it would not start properly, and we finally found out that this thing wasn't flexing enough down here, and it was flexing only maybe about 1/4 of an inch when it should be flexing at least about 1/2 inch to more, like 3/4 of an inch in order for it to function properly because of the said problem with the frame. The frame was damaged, and this whole thing should be completely rigid all along here with the tubing running down as the subframe assembly on here. And by it not being rigid, it was not providing proper tension and pressure on your actual safety switch right here in order for it to engage and disengage properly. So that's another real cheap shit design as they have in this one machine here. I don't like saying that, but that's the case with this piece of garbage, as you can call it that. The other problems were the actual tires in the back right here. The one tire on the right hand side is heavily rotted over here. You can actually see the big, it's actually, you can see the underneath of the actual tread right here. You can see it right here. It's completely shot right there. It got slits up and down. That thing has to be replaced. These tires are about, I think about $60 right there, I think, last time I checked them right there for that. They're not cheap. Plus the other things was the actual braking mechanism. It needs new brake pads in there and also needs to be adjusted. And these machines also have a pressure plate system underneath your belly pan down here, sort of like the called snapper. I think it's a snapper riding lawnmower, and that pressure plate and the actual rubber tire is completely shot as well too. And just doing all that work, that would take probably about 10 to 12 hours for doing all the work to actually repair everything I mentioned, plus the actual disassembly, reassembly, and ordering all the parts. And we had to tell the guy it's going to be at least about a $400 to $500 job, and it's simply not going to be cost effective to do that on this one specific machine, unfortunately, because of those aspects right there too. Plus, even if he only wanted done the basic bare minimum, we cannot do it because of the structural integrity issues he has with the actual frame tubing underneath there. Because if we do the bare minimum, just get the machine running over here, and we do that, there's a high possibility and chance that possibly he takes it home and he's cutting on a hill or a slope or some kind of an angle, and those tube welds, the actual last ones, can possibly break in the back since they are rusted. And if they do break, this whole thing can just like collapse in on itself because it's not being supported in the back, and he can possibly be damaged or injured as a result of that incident right there, and we can possibly be held liable and sued. So from our standpoint and a legality standpoint, you cannot do that. You have to do it thoroughly and completely, unless the customer doesn't want it done. So that's why the customer doesn't want it done, because we called him up today here this afternoon, and he said, no way, don't do it then. It's not going to be worth it for that. So that's my overall review of the Weed Eater 1 riding lawnmower here. If anybody has any comments, questions, feel free to email me here or just leave a message at the bottom of the page, and I'll try to answer any questions you guys have about something similar to this machine right here, because I do not personally recommend you buy any of these similar to this because of the overall cheapness and lack of quality. So if you're in the market for a lawnmower or tractor, definitely steer clear of this one specific machine, because it's highly problematic, and I do not recommend these things due to the quality or lack thereof. So I'll see you guys, and have a nice day.